Hello and welcome. I hope you've had a wonderful day and are looking forward to this sleep story. Tonight, you will be arriving on Tatooine, a desert planet in the Outer Rim. Before we begin our story though, find yourself a comfy position in bed, a safe place where you can relax. To help your body slow down, we will perform the 4-7-8 breathing technique. Close your lips and inhale through your nose. Hold your breath. Exhale completely through your mouth, making a whooshing sound. Close your lips and inhale through your nose. Hold your breath. Exhale completely through your mouth, making a whooshing sound. Close your lips and inhale through your nose. Hold your breath. Exhale completely through your mouth, making a whooshing sound. Continue breathing slowly and know that no matter what stage of life you find yourself in, you have the ability to keep pushing forward. You are a strong person with a lot to offer the world. Even if it's something small, everyone can make a difference. Now, allow your mind to clear and find yourself on a space cruiser, soaring through the stars at light speed. The familiar forces of leaving hyperspace push through your body. On your seat next to a port window, a red sphere in the dark. The planet Tatooine, deep within the Outer Rim territories. It certainly didn't look like much, differing shades of red, offering the promise of desert misery. The ship's engines hummed as it steered towards the planet. It was tight within the confines of the spaceship, people packed in like sardines. You were lucky to have secured a seat. Most people hadn't had the privilege and either sat or leaned against hard metal floors and walls. The ship creaked dangerously as it entered the atmosphere. You crossed your fingers, hoping that this rusty bucket of bolts would hold together until Mos Espa. At least, for a one-way ticket, it had been dirt cheap. You close your eyes and take a few deep breaths as the final stage of the journey winds down. You're jolted out of your reverie by a rough landing. The hydraulic hiss of the ramp lowering sounds from behind you. A hot desert wind blows into the hold, causing you to break out in sweat. You had been warned about the heat, but the sheer strength of it still catches you off guard. The hold emptied as people hurried to get off the ship and find some shelter. You adjusted your head wrap and joined the throng of humanity exiting. The stinging light of Tatooine's two suns blinds you as you exit the shade of the ship, and you quickly reach into your pocket, putting on goggles to shade your eyes. The desert wind stings your exposed skin as it swirls around you. You hate sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating and gets everywhere. You hurriedly walk into the shelter of the city, as it offers some protection from the wind, soon becoming engulfed by its maze-like layout, with white sandstone buildings on all sides. Species of all shapes and sizes inhabit the city, most of which you don't recognize. You only just step aside as the speeder flies past, narrowly missing you. Slowly, you grow used to the rhythm of the street as you move deeper into the city. A droid walks by, forced along by a small hooded figure. Must be one of the native Jawa you had been told about. Soon, the throng of people all seem to be heading in one direction. You assume all with the same destination in mind: the Mos Espa Grand Arena, which would be hosting the Bunta Eve Classic Pod Race. You had heard many things about it and were excited that coincidentally you arrive on the same day. You deserve to enjoy yourself. Business can start tomorrow after a good night's rest. The throng starts to thicken as people stream into the arena, a river flowing into the stadium. The massive stand dwarfs you, filled with patrons eating, drinking, and gambling as the excitement rises before the big race. You had only heard about the race secondhand, but from that, you knew you were in for a crazy experience. The races were chaotic and wild, with the competitors lucky to make it to the finish line in one piece. You passed by a vendor selling drinks and traded some local currency for a green beverage of mysterious origins. The serving droid seemingly wasn't able to communicate what the drink was. It was refreshing though, and gave you a burst of energy, adding a little skip to your step, helping you find a really good seat right up in front of the grandstand. The buzz of the crowd grows louder as more and more people trickle in, and an air of anticipation permeates the stand. On the sand, at the start line, you could see a plethora of people working on the vehicles below, desperately putting on the finishing touches before the race. What the racers were competing in were essentially small pods tied by a cable to two massive roaring engines. They looked extremely dangerous, but with the prize money that the hut sponsored, people kept coming back, even though there was a chance you weren't surviving the race. The commentators' voices boomed above the stand as they introduced themselves and appeared on the big screen. Fodenbeed Anadu was a Troig, so one of its two heads spoke in Galactic Basic, and the other spoke what was likely Huttese, but you weren't entirely sure, as you'd never heard the language. Together, they introduced the race and its competitors. The mechanics exited the starting line, leaving the 10 racers awaiting the signal. Engines roared and whined to life as the starting sequence began. Flames and exhaust fumes fired from the engines as they were revved to the limit on the line. Then, bang, they were off, disappearing around the corner in the blink of an eye. Taken aback by their speed, your eyes turned to the big screen to watch the madness unfold. Chaos into the first corner as one of the pods is forced off the track and careens into a rock, exploding in a raging ball of fire. You wince as the crowd around you roars their approval. By the time they swing by on their second lap, only 6 of the 10 competitors are still in the race. It's a close run thing as the 2 front pod racers swing into the final straight towards the finish line. A smaller, green pod racer gets the best of his opponent in the final corner and takes victory. The crowd goes wild, chanting the name of the winner, and you add your voice to the din, getting caught up in the excitement. Heading back into Mos Espa proper, the sky grows darker and you take an elevator down into the lower section of the city, hoping to find a place to stay for the night. You delve into the city, exploring the streets, which are bustling with market stalls and people. The air is filled with the exotic smells of roasted meat and strange bubbling concoctions. The nightlife is in full swing after the big race. It's probably the busiest night of the year. You head into a darkened alley and spot the entrance to an establishment that looks relatively quiet. Entering, you see a small number of patrons talking quietly amongst themselves, seated at tables or at the bar. A small band plays in the corner and their melody fills the space. You head to the bar and a female Twi'lek greets you. You order a room for the night and ask for food and drink to be brought to a table. You hand over some currency and take a seat, relaxing back and taking your cloak off, hanging it on the chair. Your goggles and head wrap go onto the table. The server quickly brought over a drink and a plate of strange meat. It was hard to tell just what it was, and you didn't have the courage to ask. Thankfully, it tasted fine, and you tucked in, washing it down with a refreshing blue drink. This certainly was a different corner of the galaxy than the one you were used to. You happily spent the next hour slowly getting through some drinks, listening to the music, and soaking in the atmosphere. When you feel yourself growing tired, you stand up and make your way to your room. It's small but comfortable. You strip off your outer layer of clothing and get into bed, relaxing under the blanket. The quiet hum of a nearby generator slowly lulls you to sleep, and the land of dreams overtakes you.